listening to SFM Radio this Mandela Month.
It is in your hands now.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, we continue the conversation on The Talking Point. Singabakho Ncumalo, the National Spokesperson for Correctional Services, is on the line. So we're talking about a raid which the police conducted coming out of the weekend. Part of that raid included the cell of Vusimbusi Cathy Mohlahlana, who's at the center now of the controversy and allegations around politicians, including Minister Senzo Mchunu. Other reports suggesting Bekicele too linked to this individual, and the allegation, of course, is of how politicians have been using their power to protect certain individuals who are part of criminal networks and criminal syndicates. So, Mr. Ncumalo, you were telling us about the raid conducted and why this raid took place. So my understanding is that Mr. Mohlahlana was arrested on the 14th of May, so that was almost 2 months ago now, on attempted murder charges. So I just want you to talk me through the events of the weekend. When over the weekend was this raid conducted?
Okay, you will appreciate that we are a security establishment and we cannot give out all the details because we are conducting these raids. Some of them are unannounced, and the reason for that is to make it a point that people do not find time to conceal whatever that they may have, which is illegal. So, and as a department, I think when we conduct these raids, the objective goes even to cover the safety of offenders, because if an offender is having an illegal item, it could be even a sharpened object. If it's not removed, that person can even harm other people. And sometimes when we move offenders from one section of the facility to the other, it is also in terms of protecting them and to make it a point that we can even minimize the risk of them being harmed. So you will, I don't know whether you may have picked up that even before that we had conducted another raid at Bavian Sport Correctional Facility. That was informed by intelligence that we received. But I did indicate that some of these raids are routine as such as that centers conduct themselves. So even that
So why I'm asking the question in this way, Mr. Ncumalo, is because I want to know, did you conduct this raid before or after the briefing that was held by General Mkhwanazi on Sunday?
I cannot be specific in terms of time, but what we can state is that these are routine raids. And
but why does it matter? Why does it matter? Because this is a raid that has already happened. I'm not asking you to give us details of raids that you're still going to conduct. You've already conducted this raid, and you're giving us the outcome of that raid. And it's obviously quite important to know when this raid was conducted. Earlier, you said that in light of what was said by General Mkhwanazi and the fact that Mr. Mohlahlana's profile was now in the public space or raised because of those allegations, then it was also in his interest for him to be moved to CMAX prison.
That was a response in terms of the assessment and the classification. It had nothing to do with a search operation, which is routine. And I need to reiterate this point. Even us, it's not like we issued a statement and said we find an illegal item with a specific inmate. And we were asked, why is this inmate at CMAX? The National Commission then provided a response that no, this offender had to be moved there because we confiscated a mobile phone. We never issued a statement to that effect.
Yeah, look, and I guess it's inconsequential whether or not you issued the statement. The question that was asked is a very important question. And the fact that you are unable to provide an answer as to whether this happened before or after the briefing by General Mkhwanazi in and of itself will raise questions?
It's not a matter of being unable, but we are not going to come on air and then give detail in terms of security operations. Hence, even when we conduct some of them, we'll invite the leader, but to say how we go about them and what gives credence in terms of saying this is where we're going now. Nobody knew that we're going to...
So what danger would he be in, Singabako? What danger is he in?
Okay. How we assess offenders is to say, okay, is this person vulnerable? And what is the extent to which this person is vulnerable? Will this person, in a way, harm himself or be harmed by others?
How did this make him vulnerable?
Okay, I'm explaining to you how we go about conducting assessments, if you can just bear with me. Because it's not like we look at just one variable and then decide that this person is a candidate to be moved to another section. There's a whole lot of things that we look at. And it's an assessment that is conducted not just by one person. It's important that such is conducted so that you avoid a situation where, should something happen to an inmate, then correctional services is at fault in saying that you failed to conduct a proper assessment, hence this inmate was harmed, or he harmed himself, or particular things may have happened to him. So there is a manner in which we run correctional facilities, we assess offenders, and we move offenders, so that at no point our mandate is questioned.
Who else is he with in that section?
Well, now there is a number of other inmates. I cannot give the number, but what is happening is that as you move offenders, you then have to look at to say, okay, where you are moving this offender to, will that not disadvantage this offender in any way? And if that is to happen, then you ought to then attend to that. Hence, you always have to relook into that particular assessment that you've conducted and say, is it still relevant, or is it still fit to keep that inmate there? In case
is it true that he's now on the same level as Thabo Bester, another individual who has also been associated to politicians and is also said to be benefiting from some level of political protection in his own matters that are currently before the court?
They will not be at the same level. You will understand that Thabo Bester has been at CIMEX for a while. And there is a system at CIMEX when the new entrants come in, they will start at a particular phase and they will move in terms of that, because the intention is not to keep a person there until they finish their term. So they will not be at the same section, and even that classification differs. Thabo Bester is a sentenced inmate with further charges, whereas this one is still attending to court cases.
All right, Mr. Singabako Ngumalo, thanks for coming on air this morning. And you heard they've confiscated his phone, and that now will be part of the investigation, forensic analysis in as far as the allegations that he's facing now concerned. Of course, that would probably also be the phone used for communication with some of these alleged politicians that he may have been in touch with. It's a story which continues to unfold. We'll take the latest headlines, the open line after this.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has referred to Northwest-based businessman Brown Mokgotsi as a comrade, not an associate. This is contained in a statement the Police Ministry released. The minister has also denied ever meeting controversial businessman Vusimuzi Cathy Mohlahlana. The Umkhonto weSizwe party convener in Mpumalanga, Busiswe Mkhwebane, has described the dismissal of Mary Party's appeal as a full restoration order for the party. The ruling has confirmed Advocate Mkhwebane as the party's provincial leader. And Mexico's public prosecutor says 10 cartel gunmen have been sentenced to a total of more than 140 years in prison. They were found guilty of murder and kidnapping. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
They both have a rich history of glory. Amakhosi tackle the Porcupine Warriors.
This is as good as it gets.
This is the Toyota Cup.
The game you've been looking forward to on your football calendar.
Giants refuse to fall.
The big game.
The big game. On Saturday, 26 July at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus across the entire African continent and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport in proud partnership with Kaizer Chiefs Football Club.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
All right, we continue the conversation on the open line. I'll be taking your calls on 086 000 2032, on the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. You heard that conversation with Singabakho Ncumalo. I wonder what you make of that. Romeo, you're out in KZN. Good morning.
Good morning to you and SFM listeners. How are you?
Doing good, Romeo. Get straight into it, please.
Thank you very much. I just want to talk about the reaction made by the Minister of Police over the issue of allegation that has been spoken by the General Mohlahlana. I think for a general to spill beans over all those kind of allegations, I think it took him a long time investigating, and they already know the repercussions and the consequences that could happen. So for him to speak out like that, he is a general. He has got access of all the communications to an extent of knowing even also the recording of communication of other phones in the provincial and partly possible as far as to national level, considering the fact that he is also a member of JOC, a high-profile security people who have to look at the country, the functioning of the country as security systems. So he cannot come out and speak like that without real evidence. It's a shocking. Definitely 2 or 3 members from the JOC at national level might have got an idea of what he said, though he already know the consequences that could happen to him over the issue of political decision that could be made. But if the president has to apply his mind toward in the favor of the majority, the citizens, I'm telling you, a lot of people are going to be, right now, are going to be arrested. And right now we are asking the spokesperson of prisons. He can't tell you whether it has happened before or after they have said all these allegations. So this is my observation from a distance perspective, and I thought I should just comment about it, but the minister should be waiting until everything has been done, because remember, we are not dealing with a civilian or a politician. We are dealing with a security agent who is at a national level, provincial level, with a seniority position.
All right, Romeo, let's leave it there. Romeo out in KZN. SK, you're in Pietermaritzburg. Good morning.
Morning. About Kwana's briefing, I don't think it took the right route, because recently he was also in the hot water with allegations about him involved with someone, Richard Bay or so. So for someone like him who's professional to take that kind of route, I think he might have opened a can of worms, because these things will also be done to him too.
Do you not think that it's a necessary can of worms, though? That it is important that we are here as a country, because one very much gets the sense that this is only the beginning. More still needs to unfold before this chapter can reach its climax.
Nah, I don't feel that way, because for him to start something like this, it shows a lack of respect. What can be done to him too by the people that he leads? It can be something that can be done mostly now, with people trying to even to get even the wrong information or to try and implicate others. So I don't think it's a right route that he took. Whatever he said, maybe it was right, but the way he approached, it doesn't feel good. It felt like he was plotting a coup or so. So this thing here will start happening now and then.
Okay.
It's something that we're going to see regularly.
SK
he started this thing there.
SK in Pietermaritzburg, thanks for that contribution. He says the approach taken was not the right approach. Well, we're here today. We're here. And we have to deal with the fact that we are here. And again, I think Parliament right now could well be the best vehicle to help us deal with this matter as expeditiously as possible. Mtandeki, you're in Kroonstad. Good morning.
Hi, morning, Cathy. Cathy, I just want to comment on the issue that erupted from Kwana's utterances over the last weekend. Firstly, which we all, including all media personnel, especially journalists, we should inquire seriously. One, when did Mkhwanazi receive information about number of people implicated, including the minister? If indeed the information he received knew about it, there are multi-pronged approaches you should have followed. One, if there are matters of national, the national commissioner will be relevant. If there are matters that are of province domain, surely then referrals will be made. But too importantly, is at the time of saying these things over the media, he said he accounts to the national commissioner. He doesn't account to the minister, nor the president. Did he share all this information with the minister before going to the public? What did the commissioner say? Because if indeed the timeline and the receipt of such crucial, devastating information was on his domain for more than a day or days and so on, and he did nothing, he will be an accomplice to any crime that may be created or brought against any individuals. Therefore, I feel that more questions are needed from Mkhwanazi to clarify the meticulous way he gathered that particular information, Cathy.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You know, Mtandeki, the point that you're raising relates to a question that I asked on Monday, in particular about the National Commissioner, because clearly, if we're to listen to what General Mkhwanazi was saying, he very much has the support of the Commissioner. But why was the Commissioner then not part of that media briefing? And why is it that the Commissioner has remained silent up to now, in as far as those allegations are concerned, in as far as those investigations are concerned? Because part of the issue here is also around jurisdiction, because he speaks about crime syndicates being identified in Gauteng. He's a KZN commissioner. That cross-border collaboration probably would have needed authority from higher up within the South African Police Service. So the commissioner really also needs to take the nation into his confidence and tell us what he knows and also what he thinks, because you also have members of his police force that are at loggerheads.
Remember, Cathy, what Mukhwana said. He said he uttered a general statement on the accountability to the National Commissioner. When coming to the specificities on these particular allegations he referred, neither did he utter that this matter of the minister, I did tell the National Commissioner. This matter of Mohlahlana, I did tell the Commissioner, National Commissioner. He never went to that stage.
Yes.
I'm saying these are the questions that he must be facing. Indeed, when did he receive it? But why did he decide on Midday on the weekend to come and utter that? Whereas some of the issues were perhaps in the domain of the National Commissioner.
Okay.
If he did share with the Commissioner.
All right. Ntandegi in Kroonstad. Those could also be questions that, Parliament puts to him if Parliament decides to call on all of the individuals that have been implicated in this incredible scandal facing the police. Tabiso, you're in Polokwane. You want to talk about the tariffs?
Yeah, Cathy, perhaps maybe let me say, I listened thoroughly to the interview with the...
Hello, Tabiso? All right, not sure what happened there. We've lost Tabiso on the line. We'll try to get him up. Hitler, you're in Boshoff. Good morning.
Good morning, Sis Cathy. How are you?
Doing well, sir. Go for it.
Sis Cathy, just succinctly, short and straight to the point, can you please find out for me what is the relationship of the minister's spokesperson and the alleged Mokhotsi? Because I'm in the news bulletin, I hear that the spokesperson is Mokhotsi. How is she related to the national spokesperson of the police minister?
I think that's a fair question, Hitler.
Thank you very much.
Fair enough. And of course, Kamoholo Mokhomotsi is somebody that has filled the post of being the spokesperson for the minister Senzo Mchunu, but many are also questioning how she filled that position, and even going back to the minister and the role that he played in his previous portfolios that involved the DBSA. So, yeah. But those questions relating more to allegations of, how the allegation is that the minister basically fast-tracked her growth within the organization to a level that she did not necessarily qualify for. I assert that is the allegation that is being made. Gade, you are in the Eastern Cape. Good morning.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Cathy. How are you?
Doing well. Go for it, Gade.
Yes, Cathy. You are talking to God in the Eastern Cape. Yes, I want to call the board on the matter of Mkhwana. I fully support Mkhwana on what he has done for the country of South Africa. Two, I want to input on the matter of the national dialogue. Are you still here, Gadi?
Yes, we're listening, Gade.
Yes. The national dialogue is needed in the country. After 30 years, things are still falling apart, so we need to review what went wrong,
from 1994 up to now, because people are still suffering. There is a high rate of unemployment, high rate of crime in the country. So we need to gather under one roof and discuss the review, the Freedom Charter on our constitution. Can you open a national debate on the two-party state versus the multi-party democrats? Because our multi-democratic things that are not working after the years.
Yeah.
If you look at other countries who have got two-party states that are doing well, there's no other shenanigans as our country are experiencing now.
Okay.
If in that national dialogue they can debate two-party state versus the multi-party democrats, because it doesn't have the poor to correct.
Okay, Kade in the Eastern Cape.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for that contribution. Look, having the conversation around two-party states and multi-party states is absolutely an easy one. I suppose what you are saying indirectly also points to the work that has been done in relation to reforms in amending the Electoral Act. Did it go as far as it needed to go? Or has it really been a preservation of the status quo? That, yes, there were guidelines, outlines on what needed to be done, but, that Parliament went for, they went for entry level in as far as ticking the box and in as far as that exercise is concerned, but didn't really explore the full range of what electoral reform in this country looks like. I know the committees and the advisory committees that had been put together gave very extensive recommendations, but in its implementation and in its taking on of those recommendations, did Parliament go far enough? Tabiso in Polokwane, I see you're back up on the line. Good morning again.
I don't know what happened to the technology.
No problem, Tabiso, go for it.
You see, I've seen a statement released by the DA yesterday around the 30% tariff. It was actually signed off by the leader of the DA. I think it's Stan Hiesen. And in the statement, he goes further and says, as a Minister of Agriculture, this is what I've been doing, what. And he goes further and says, these are the policies. We are here because of the policies of the ANC and whatever that he said. Now, what baffles me in this particular statement was that why is the DA not separating politics, party and the state in the statement that they have released? And the second part is that the DA behaves as if it's the official opposition. By the way, the official opposition is the MKP. The DA does these things quite deliberately because you can't be in the DA is the ruling party under the government of national unity. So therefore, everything that happens under the government of national unity, whether it's the DA, the Rise Mozambique, all those that have signed the statement of intent are actually responsible for that. But what is shocking me throughout, and I'm getting baffled, maybe I don't understand these things. Day in, day out, you'll have the DA separating its own ministers to say the minister of DA has done that. But when it comes to particular issues, you will have the DA says, no, the president must either fire this one or that one on the basis of this. I'm confused, Cathy, with regard to the behavior. Why is the DA not leaving the GNU if they are going to be the same opposition or alleviate themselves in the GNU at the expense of their other colleagues?
Tabi, so do you think that the straddling of the DA, being a member of the government of national unity while at the same time also insisting on being an opposition or saying that it is an opposition party, do you think that that's quickly fading, that it is now no longer going to be something that the party can get away with doing credibly?
No, not exactly. Well, of course, I don't expect them to, in the blink of an eye, it happens that the DA will behave differently. But at the end of the day, when they were an official opposition, they were able to raise quite a number of critical issues insofar as the separation of the state and the party is concerned. But for them now, when they're in government, they start to do certain things that they were saying they were wrong. It baffles me, and it clearly tells me that these people do not know what they are talking about. If you've been saying all along when you are opposition that there must be a separation between the party and the state, but you don't do the same thing. When you release statements, you start by releasing a statement, the DA, what has released this particular statement. In the statement, then you say, ministers of DA are doing well. What do you mean of ministers of DA? Because that's government of national unity. Okay.
All right, Taviso. I hear the point that you're making, but yeah, it is a contest for credibility, but also to be seen, right? Every party in the government of national unity will want to claim whatever successes that they can, because that is very much going to be aligned to any election that takes place. They are going to use that to campaign. And I think we should, quite frankly, probably expect that from all political parties. Pule, you're in Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and thank you for taking my call. Your Singabako, his way of responding to all the questions you asking him, I think it is not only pathetic, but I think quite disgusting and nasty to the superlative degree of comparison. This guy fails to understand that it cannot be a coincidence, Cathy, that the inmate, this inmate's vulnerability gets assessed, upon the revelations or allegations made by the commissioner in KZN. It cannot be a coincidence. But he refuses flat to answer questions as to whether was this done before or post the press conference. I mean, he comes onto national radio, but he refuses to answer questions that are so pertinent and relevant. All we wanted to know is, when was the decision taken to go do the raid, but during the raid, zoom directly into this guy's cell and find it necessary that because of his vulnerability and other reasons, he somehow tried to explain. Then it was necessary to take him to another section, and it so happens that this is the person who happens to have crossed paths with the ministers, with these high-ranking politicians of ANC. I find it quite bizarre and very pathetic, as I put it. It is all really that I wanted to sort of remark about and say, I thought you'd find something out of Singabako. But lately, all these guys, they are spokespersons, ministers, they are all, reading from one script somewhere that, look, you must really hide, you dig your head in the sand, you mustn't say anything that may expose us. This is what I found. And lastly, someone was asking about the National Commissioner, Cathy Mohlahlana, as to where is he when all this is happening. Cathy Mohlahlana is right behind the Commissioner Mkhwanazi. Even during that press conference, if you are looking for him, he should have been sitting somewhere behind him, saying, yes, pull the string and that string and that string. It is all I have to say, Cathy.
All right.
Thank you and enjoy your day.
Thanks for that contribution, Pule in Welcome. But he's the national commissioner. He doesn't have to be pulling strings. He is the one that should be doing part of what Commissioner Mkhwanazi spoke to, because these are matters that fall directly on his table, directly in his line of decision making. Vusiyo in Mpumalanga, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. How are you?
Everybody's asking me how I am this
How are
morning.
you?
I'm doing well, Vusi.
Thank you so much for
Go
taking
for
my
it.
call. Sis Cathy, as a South African citizen, I'm very much disappointed, especially in the manner in which this dramatic unfolded on the weekend from Midday Mkhwanazi regarding all what he said on the national television. It is very much disappointing, but we cannot say we did not expect it. As we are in the government that we are having, these things, they are still going to happen and they are still going to be unfolded as they are started right now. General Mkhwanazi need to be protected by South African, by the same government that we don't believe they are going to protect him. In actually, I think they are busy trying to narrate or trying to find a way to eliminate him. That's what I think. But to me and to all South Africans, what I can say, it is time before we do. I know that ANC has a majority people in this country. I'm one of them who voted ANC a number of times. But it is high time that we get rid of this organization. This organization is not good for South African. It's not good for us. Because as I speak, I'm worried as we are going to die or as we are going to pass away. We are going to leave our children with a country, or we are going to leave our children with countryless.
Okay.
As we are.
Vusi, thanks for that contribution. Vusi out in Mpumalanga. For the question that was asked about the minister spokesperson, Kamohelo Mokhomotsi, and whether she is related to the individual that is said to have links to the minister. Many of you are sending me messages saying that she has already said that they are not related. So there seems to be the answer then, that they are not related. All right, it's now 10 o'clock. It's time for your latest news update. We'll continue with Citizens Corner on the other side of this.
In our top stories, police minister denies having ties to Cathy Mohlahlana and a guard of honor to receive Mabuza's remains. Good morning. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has referred to Northwest-based businessman Brown Mokhotsi as a comrade, not an associate. This is contained in a statement released by the police ministry. Mchunu has also denied ever meeting controversial businessman Vusimuzi Cathy Mohlahlana. The statement follows the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's allegations that senior police officials were involved in corruption and interfered in crime-fighting operations. Mohlahlana is an alleged criminal mastermind and tender king, while Mokhotsi is alleged to be politically connected. Police Ministry spokesperson Kamohelo Mokhotsi.
The minister has never met Mr. Mohlahlana, has never spoken to him, nor has the minister ever requested or received anything from him. The minister did, however, initiate a review of the SAPS tender awarded to him when suspicions of possible wrongdoing surfaced. It was the same tender which has since been terminated. Furthermore, whilst the minister knows and has met Mr. Brown Mokhotsi, he is just a comrade and not an associate of the minister. The minister has never requested or received anything from him.
Meanwhile, the Correctional Services Department has confirmed Mohlahlana has been transferred to the CMAX section of Kgosimampuru Correctional Centre in Pretoria. This after the department's officials found a cell phone inside Mohlahlana's cell at the weekend. Mohlahlana is facing attempted murder charges. He's now linked to alleged corruption involving the police ministry. Pusuletso Mukwena reports.
Correctional Services spokesperson Singabakho Nxumalo says a decision was made to move Mohlahlana to the prison's CMAX section after being found with a cell phone. He is considered a high-risk inmate. Mohlahlana's name has hogged headlines following the explosive revelations by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi on Sunday about Mohlahlana's alleged links to Police Minister Senzo Mchunu. He was awarded a 360 million SAPS Health Services tender, which was later cancelled. Mohlahlana now faces attempted murder charges together with his wife for the alleged attack on actress and socialite Tebogo Tebejane.
The Umkhonto weSizwe party convener in Mpumalanga, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, has described the dismissal of Mary Padi's appeal as a full restoration order for the party. Padi's expulsion led to her losing a position in the provincial legislature. The High Court in Umbombela dismissed her appeal yesterday. The ruling has confirmed Advocate Mkhwebane as the party's provincial leader. She says the decision will bring stability to the party ahead of the 2026 local elections.
This has caused so much instability and challenges for Umkhonto weSizwe members in the province, because as the main opposition party and the party which did well after the 2024 elections, we couldn't be very much impactful. So this is a very encouraging way forward for Umkhonto weSizwe in Mpumalanga.
Former Deputy President David Mabuza will receive a Guard of Honor on Friday on the eve of his state funeral Category 2. The military will conduct the funeral with prescribed ceremonial honours. Reflecting on Mabuza's time in government, ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula says he served with strategic calm.
As Deputy President of the Republic, he led interministerial committees focused on land reform, rural and township economic revitalization, and accelerated service delivery. As Deputy President, he also assumed the responsibilities for the South African National AIDS Council, work related to the plight of military veterans, and a host of other issues assigned to him by the President. Internationally, he represented South Africa with quiet dignity and a firm strategic hand.
And finally, Mexico's public prosecutors says 10 cartel gunmen have been sentenced to a total of more than 140 years in prison. They were found guilty of murder and kidnapping. The BBC's Tracy Bircham has the details.
The 10 men were arrested in September 2024 at a farm dubbed the Ranch of Horrors after a shootout with members of the National Guard. The authorities say the farm was used as a forced recruitment centre for the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, one of the country's most powerful criminal gangs. Hundreds of objects, clothing and dozens of shoes, as well as alleged charred human remains thought to belong to missing people, were found at the site.
Recapping the top story, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has referred to Northwest-based businessman Brown Mokhotsi as a comrade, not an associate. The minister has also denied ever meeting controversial businessman Vuzimuzi Cathy Mohlahlana. This is contained in a statement released by the police ministry. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
The Twiga Stars want to impress the Tanzanians with maximum points, while Banyana won nothing but a win as a reminder that they are the continental champions. This is the Group C clash of the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the glittering clash between Tanzania and South Africa on Friday 11 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and S3. Also available on SABC radio stations at 9 p.m. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Bigger office, more staff, A new location? Growth takes investment, and a business term loan from Standard Bank gives you the capital you need to expand on your terms. With competitive interest rates, fixed monthly repayments, and a dedicated support team, you can plan ahead with confidence. Keep your business growing with a Standard Bank business term loan. Visit standardbank.co.za/business loans to apply. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Morning Brief.
Do we know why our driver's license expires every 5 years and we have to go through the schlep of renewing it?
Look, there's no real or valid explanation to have to renew the license every 5 years, because it's not like you undergo test again or your ability to drive is tested again. The only thing they do is test your eyesight. I can assure you, you or I do not want to drive if you're blind. So it's just a fallacy. And in fact, most countries around the world are at an average of 10 years, some 15, even 20, to just renew the card. And this is, quite frankly, a money-making scheme.
That's Wayne Duvenage, who is CEO of the organization Undoing Tax Abuse.
Tulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
You're listening to The Talking Point. Welcome to the second hour of the show. It's 9 after 10 o'clock, and we continue to lead conversations that move us. Coming up in this hour for Citizens Corner, we are going to be looking at an issue raised by one of our listeners, and it was really a plea from a father who spoke about, some of the challenges that come with raising a boy child, difficult conversations around consent, particularly in sexual situations, and also then how it is that we equip or empower boy children and even young adults, men, when it comes to the issue of consent. So it's a very important conversation that we'll be having for this hour. Before we get into it, though, your voice notes are from the open line.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Hey, morning, Cathy. I think it's about time the president suspend Minister of Police. It's clear now. There is a link between him and the people that were mentioned by Little General Mkhwana. It's time, so that whatever is going to happen, whether it's a judiciary inquiry, whether it's a parliamentary inquiry, everything that's going to be done, it must be done with sense of Mkhunu suspended. That's the only thing that we need right now, because we don't want him to interfere with the investigation. Thank you, Cathy. It's VK from Devon.
Statement released by police minister denying to know Cathy Mohlahlana, but admitting to know Mokgotsi, is a disparate statement and is unspinnable, even though they are trying to spin it. In fact, tacitly, he is saying there is connection between the two. But I know the other one through the other one is making a tacit admission. In fact, the president must suspend him while investigations are ongoing. And the cell phones has been captured in jail, Kanjo.
Good morning, SAFM and Mzansi at large. It's Mawande from Springs in Niger. Mr. Ngomano could only chew water when you are asking him the direct question. My sister, where there is smoke, there is fire. In Zulu, they say, "Ayinuki ngusiwanga." Thank you. Have a good show, my sister.
Morning, Sis Cathy. This is Tumisani from KZN. Joe, that spokesperson, Singabako, Joe, is disrespecting our intelligence. You asked simple questions. When was Matlala admitted there? He knows it. That's why he has got the information. The minute they know where to move him to, he has got that information. Then another thing, why is he avoiding every question you are asking him and referring to how they are good at doing their rates there? That guy must.
Good evening, this is SS from Bloemfontein. The point that we must hear out of this raid that was done at the prison, that rate was needed because we have to confiscate that phone of that guy of Cat so that we can wipe the phone, all the communication between the minister and him be no more. That's why that rate was needed. Let's just put one and one together.
I say, no, the spokesperson is not telling us the truth. They always update us or inform us of the outcomes or the findings. They always inform us that yesterday or on Wednesday or on Thursday we're at these facilities or at this prison, and these are the findings. If you know, even if you go to the social media, they will even post the videos. So now, telling us that no, for the security or for the safety of the prisoners, no, he's really not telling us the truth. Thank you.
Good morning, Cathy and the listeners. Cathy, your interview with Sibanga, Singabako Numalo, it's very uncomfortable for me. I don't know if other listeners are having the same. I don't think we as the general public should know or want to know what happens, operational things that happens in the prison and why they do this and that. I don't think it's for the benefit of us. Yes, knowing it's good, but what do we do with that information? If anything, it could probably give information to those that would want to do something about that information. Thank you, Sydney in Abington.
Join us for this year's fundraiser, Jazz for Young People concert at the National School of the Arts on the 26th of July. This unique event, perfect for families, is a powerful celebration of youth, creativity, and community spirit. So bring the whole family to enjoy a wonderful day of world-class jazz curated by Zoe Mudicha, featuring the Parktown Girls Band, Tshwane School of Music, The Real DJ Zandi, Kutlotaro Jazz Band, and many others. Tickets are just 80 Rand and 50 Rand for kids under 12 via Quicket. Jazz for Young People is proudly brought to you by Standard Bank Joy of Jazz.
The Eagles of Carthage and the Phoenix both believe they are the queens of North Africa. Who are the real queens of the North? This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the spectacular battle between Tunisia and Algeria this Thursday, 10 July at 6 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
This Mandela month, Nelson Mandela once said,
"We have traveled a long journey. We have fought for peace and reconciliation, for social justice, for all men, women, and children."
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Herman Mashaba's response is so interesting, and he said, "John, when I was the mayor of the city of Joburg, I fired 3 DA MACO members for corruption. The party kept them as councillors. South Africa is not going to succeed in fighting corruption for as long as we apply double standards. Corruption is
no such
corruption."
thing. The whole country knows Ashraf. You can't trust anything Herman Mashaba says. One day, he's a flip-flopper on plastic notes. If there's one politician in this country who's renowned for being a flip-flopper, who's unable to stay true to any public comment without changing it the next second, it is Herman Mashaba.
Karabo Kaukau, the DA national spokesperson.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
The Morning Brief.
What's your sense? Pack of lies or prima facie case?
I can't say whether it's either or. What I can say, though, that I can't imagine that the provincial commissioner would take the risk that he took yesterday if he didn't have something solid to back it up. It just wouldn't make sense to me. It is literally and figuratively speaking suicidal move if you don't have evidence to back it up. And the fact that he had the amount of senior members sitting around him, task force members and NIU members, what seems to be NIU members in the background, also sends a very, very strong message. We might not all agree on the optics. That could be a debate for another day.
That's Ian Cameron, who is chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police in Parliament.
Tulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, let's get into our 10 o'clock conversation, although I must add that we are keeping a close eye on a media briefing currently being held by the National Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola. This is a briefing set to be an update on operational matters. We're going to bring that briefing live as soon as we've been able to connect to it. So unfortunately, our conversation may be interrupted in as far as what we had scheduled for this hour. If it is, we will make a plan to reschedule it for another day. But that being said, then, let me welcome onto the show the guests that we have lined up. All right, I'm just getting signal from my producers. What is the signal? Okay, the briefing is up. Okay, so we're going to have to move things. We're going to have to move things as while we're on the go. My understanding is that the connection to that briefing with the minister is now up and running. So let's take you then to the National Police Commissioner, that is, not the minister, the National Police Commissioner, Fanny Masemola.
Covered in the country and also at our borders. With regard to GBV and F, as part of the ongoing government-led campaign against gender-based violence and femicide, between April and May, 416 GBV perpetrators were sentenced to time in prison. 57 of them were handed down life sentences. 43 were handed down 20 years and above. While 193 were handed down 1 to 9 years imprisonment. But I must, however, indicate that these sentences are not for crimes committed between April and May and June this year. It varies. It comes quite a long way, but these cases were finalized during this specific period. And turning to crime intelligence, crime intelligence remains a cornerstone of South African police service in terms of providing proactive and reactive intelligence to prevent crime, especially organized crime, including resource allocation to safeguard national security. Its effectiveness directly impacts the SAP's ability to combat escalating crime threats. Following the arrest of the Divisional Commissioner of Crime Intelligence, Lieutenant General Khumalo, and 6 others, on Thursday, 26th of June to date, the Human Resource Division of the SAPS has processed the matter in line with the SAPS disciplinary regulations of 2016. All 7 these senior officers has been temporarily transferred out of the Division Crime Intelligence, pending more information, which we have requested from IDEC, that will indicate to us as to what further course of action we can do. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, let me take the opportunity to announce that the Acting Divisional Commissioner for Crime Intelligence for now will be Major General Solomon Makatu. Major General Makatu is the current head of the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, also known as the Hawks, in the Western Cape. He brings to this position a wealth of experience and knowledge in the intelligence and detective space, with 36 years service in both environments in SAPS. He holds a BTech degree in policing as well as National Diploma in Police Administration. We have full confidence in Major General Makatu, and we trust that his leadership will enhance efficiency and maintain stability within crime intelligence. On conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we remain resolute and will give Major General Makatu the support, together with senior managers that are in that environment. For us as management, this is a pivotal moment. We will be judged, of course, by resolve and to adhere to the law and our unwavering commitment to service. We have full confidence in members of SAPS to serve with honor on a daily basis. We draw strength from their daily commitment and exemplary service to communities. This is the time not to divide, but to stand together and fight crime together. I thank you.
General, online we have received a few questions from members of the media. The first one is from Newsroom Africa. Can the Commissioner give us clarity on the nature of the investigation that the KZN Commissioner, Lieutenant General Kwanazi, says was started into the Police Minister? What is the scope of this investigation?
Well, look, one does not venture into criminal investigations. The provincial commissioner did indicate what he's investigating, but one cannot venture into a criminal investigation, and the province have got the authority to investigate criminal cases.
Okay, and then the next question, General, it comes from Siavuya. Quick one, the dockets Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi referred to that were allegedly taken away to SAP's headquarters. What is the National Commissioner's understanding of that alleged decision?
Well, I think you have seen in the media, it is a to and fro. We rather leave that space to allow that we, as the President said, he will intervene, let him intervene, and those will be matters that are subject to investigation. It will not assist the nation that General Mkhwanazi say something, General Sivia say something, and I say something. And so I think the space has been met enough. Let's leave that for investigation.
And then the other question, General, what is the status of the political killings task team? Did the National Commissioner authorize the closure of the units?
Well, I'm sure you have not seen any letter that I've signed to close the unit. I have not signed it, and I don't think anybody have ever seen a letter where I've signed off the closure of the unit.
Another question from News 24. Can the Commissioner please advise if he was aware of the allegations Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi came forward with on Sunday prior to the press briefing?
Look, provincial commissioners have got the prerogative to brief media. Yes, he did indicate that he's going to brief media on the work of political task team, which for quite a long time we haven't done a briefing. So one does not really have a problem in him briefing the media on the work of the team, which even if the team was project manager was Lieutenant General Khumalo, who was leading the team, it is not a problem if he talk about it, because it is operating within the province of KwaZulu-Natal, which is his terrain.
Okay, General. Questions from Dr. Ngozi from PowerFM. I think this is just repetition. Did you act on the instruction from Minister of Police to disband the political killings unit? I think you have responded to that. General Mkhwanazi claimed that over 150 dockets, 5 of which had arrests issued, were taken and sit in General Sibiya's office. Can you confirm?
I wouldn't want to dwell much on that, as I said. That's what he's saying, and let that.
And in general, another one from Network 24, has the safety of Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi been
Yes, it has. We have beefed up.
All right. Unfortunately, it seems that we are having issues with that connection to the National Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola. This briefing being held online. And as you can hear, not many journalists in the room. People are fielding questions on the virtual platform. Let's try and see if we can reconnect with that briefing.
Any action against or in support of the
So the National Commissioner cannot now start taking action which will either be correct or wrong, be so, against whoever. So let's wait first, engage with the President, and from there we'll take matters forward. But of course, I'm sure you have seen Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi said what he had was facts. So let's leave it like that.
And then lastly, General, will the KZN Commissioner be protected and not be persecuted for his explosive investigation?
Well, in terms of physical protection, you know that, as I said, he's been getting threats to his life in that province. We have beefed up his security, but he won't be persecuted. From my side, surely there will be no persecution of any member of South African Police Service, not only him, but anyone.
And then what was the justification for the closure of the political killings task team?
Look, as I said, I don't want to dwell more in that regard. I don't know. I don't know the reasons, but I'm sure you heard Mkonazi said after Cathy Mohlahlana was arrested, it became clear as to what the reasons were. So I don't want to get deeper into that.
And General, on today's firearms destruction from Colin Gambi, the firearms allegedly used to commit political killings and other high-profile crimes, will they be part of the destruction?
No. They won't be. Remember, there are still cases pending. So those firearms are still going to be preserved as evidence. So the society shouldn't think that I'm here to destroy those firearms. The cases are still pending, and those firearms has been linked to more than cases in any way, of quite a number of even artists killed in this country. So they are not about to be destroyed. They will be kept until those cases are finalized.
All right, General. And then lastly, to your knowledge, are there any members of the executive, including the police minister, who are being investigated for political interference in the work of the task team?
I'm not interested in answering that one.
Okay, I think that's all from the journalist general, and I think that calls the end to our media briefing.
Thank you.
All right, so there you have it then, the briefing from the National Police Commissioner. This is Fani Masemola. Here's what he has had to say. So in that briefing then, announcing the appointment of an acting divisional head for crime intelligence, that will be Major General Solomon Makhadu. Himself in the statement didn't really address what we have been watching unfold within the public space in the last couple of days. He says that the nature of the investigation into the minister is not something he can answer on, but the KZN Police Commissioner, General Mkhwanazi, does have the prerogative to be investigating the minister as it falls within the ambit of the province. So the commissioner effectively would be doing nothing wrong in conducting an investigation into the minister. When it comes to what have been the allegations leveled by Mkhwanazi against General Sibiya, the Deputy National Commissioner of Organized Crime, he says we have all seen the public spat, and as things stand, it's not helpful for him to say anything about it. So he's not going to say anything, but rather he's going to leave the space and let the president intervene on that matter. He also, when asked about the disbandment of this political task team, says there isn't a letter that he signed that authorized the disbandment. And that's a very careful selection of words, that there isn't a letter authorizing the disbandment of that political task team. He won't be drawn on any of the other questions related to this matter, but safe to say that this is something that he will engage the president on and take it from there. Of course, when asked about Cathy Mohlahlana and his association with political figures, he first starts by saying he doesn't want to enter that space, and then goes back to defer to what General Mkhwanazi has said. basically, in some ways, endorsing what Mkhwanazi has said in as far as those allegations are concerned. Because he doesn't say that they're not true. He says Mkhwanazi believes he has evidence, and he believes Mkhwanazi, and there will be no repercussions for any of the actions and steps that have been taken by the provincial commissioner. So that's all then that we have been able to get out of that session with the national commissioner. I wonder what you make of that. This is the first time that the commissioner is speaking on the matter and effectively says, yeah, a part of me feels like maybe he should have just said, I have nothing to say. He should have just said, I have nothing to say. But this is the leader of the South African Police Service. He is the leader of the South African Police Service. How is he deferring to the president on matters that fall directly under him? I just don't understand. I really don't understand. All right, let's do this. We'll take a quick break and then we'll get some reaction to what the National Commissioner has had to say. And of course, I'll also bring in some of your calls, 086 000 2032 on the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. Yeah, I wonder what you make of that.
The Congolese have a huge mission to silence the hosts, but the Atlas Lionesses are not shaken. They are confident they will keep the people of Morocco happy. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the exciting contest between Democratic Republic of Congo and Morocco this Wednesday, 9 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Herman Mashaba's response is so interesting, and he said, John, when I was the mayor of the city of Joburg, I fired 3 DA MACO members for corruption. The party kept them as councillors. South Africa is not going to succeed in fighting corruption for as long as we apply double standards. Corruption is
no such
corruption.
thing. The whole country knows Ashraf. You can't trust anything Herman Mashaba says. One day he's a flip-flopper of plastic notes. There's one politician in this country who's renowned for being a flip-flopper, who's unable to stay true to any public comment without changing it the next second. It is Herman Mashaba.
Karabo Kaukau, the DA national spokesperson.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
All right, you're listening to The Talking Point. We continue the conversation this hour. Of course, we did have to move things around to take in that media briefing by the National Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola, speaking from Van der Bijl Park, where in the statement it says that they're conducting a sensitive and high-risk operation of firearm destruction. Therefore, as a result, there were no journalists present in the room where that briefing took place, but there was some opportunity for journalists to raise certain questions. So the commissioner then, starting off that briefing, talking about the work that they're doing in Vanderbijl Park today, which is firearm destruction and the need then to actually destroy firearms as they threaten the community, etc. He does acknowledge recent revelations of division and other serious allegations within our ranks. That's how he has phrased it. He describes the current state of affairs as unprecedented, concerning, unfortunate, and requiring uncompromised intervention when it comes to restoring public trust and stability. He acknowledges the commitment made by the president to look into this matter. And at the same time, he then reaffirms that his job is to ensure that the day-to-day operations of law enforcement are taking place. And that is exactly what he is doing. And then goes into giving a briefing then on this firearm destruction. And he also took questions, and we went into that briefing sort of midway, which is why I'm giving you this particular update, just to touch on the initial parts of his statements. And of significance is also that an acting Divisional Commissioner for Crime Intelligence has now been appointed. Major General Solomon Makgato is the person that will be in that position. All right, so some of you have already started responding to what the minister, I need to stop calling him minister, to what the commissioner has had to say. I do apologize for that. Let me go to Malwela. You're calling from Polokwane. Good morning.
Morning, Cathy. Cathy, I listened to the commissioner very well, and I was following. But and I'm happy with the commissioner and his response, and the way he took questions. But the way you responded after hearing the commissioner, I'm not happy because. But I also understand your side as well, that you are disappointed. But there is a context to this, Cathy. The commissioner, the president has already said ceasefire. I'm going to intervene, which means that the commissioner has to choose his words carefully. And according to me, he answered all the questions. For example, on the one of the political task killing in KZN, he said he did not authorize, he did not sign. On the issue of Sibia, the deputy commissioner, and General Mukwana, he said that one I'm not going to say anything because the president has already said ceasefire. So for me, I think maybe you can engage me a bit there. I think he answered all the questions, considering the context that the president, who is the commander-in-chief, has already said ceasefire just because of the national security.
What does ceasefire mean? Because the understanding of what the president said and the sort of memo that was issued was that people should be mindful, right, and circumspect of how they're handling this whole situation and how they're speaking publicly. Now, Commissioner Fanny Masemola is the National Police Commissioner. Surely, to some extent, as the person that is responsible for the very police that we are talking about today, he has some level of knowledge, some level of information that can bring clarity to this entire situation. Because remember, this is not only about Minister Senzo Mchunu. It also very much relates to allegations of interference by the minister where it concerns officials of the SAPS.
Yes, there I agree with you 100%. But my point is, whatever he's going to say now, the president has already said, I'm going to intervene, I'm going to talk to all of you. So meaning that the president now, he doesn't want the spread to continue in the media. So that's my input, Cathy. Maybe other callers or other listeners, they will give their input. But my view is that as long as the president, they have not spoken to the president, then they just need to be careful what they say. But I think for me, I'm satisfied.
But to what is careful? Does careful mean that you don't bring the public into your confidence? Does careful mean that you now don't provide clarity on operational matters? I mean, are these questions that the president can answer and should answer on?
That's why I say, Kevin, your questions, they are very much relevant. But I'm just saying, as the commissioner, if I was the commissioner as well, the way I respond, I would be careful, considering that the president has already said 1, 2, 3. That's why even the minister this morning, the minister, he spoke through the spokesperson. He was also very much careful what he says. But that's my view, Cathy. I'm not saying
no.
You are wrong.
And I think we're engaging. We're engaging, Mohlahlana. It's not position. It's not a case of me necessarily being wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll very well take it. But I'm just saying that there are questions that only he, as the National Police Commissioner, who has oversight of operations, can and should answer, and should be bringing more clarity on, given just how incredible this conversation has been over the last couple of days.
Yes, no, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
I was just adding that the fact that the president has already said ceasefire, don't continue on the media. That one, people they're trying to make sure that when they go and meet with the president, they're not accused that the president said, I'm in Brazil and I said to you, don't continue like this in the media. But they also cannot sit back and not say something. They will say something in such a way that at least they responded. But He knows a lot. And I think when he meets with the president, a lot will be said. I'm satisfied. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, all right, Mohlahlana. I hear you. Manda, you're in Cape Town. Good morning.
Cathy, I hear Masemola saying that Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi can investigate Mchunu. Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has done investigation. He's got all the evidence he needs. All he must do now is arrest Shadrack Sibiya and Senzo Mchunu by no later than today for defeating the ends of justice. When I read the explanation of defeating the ends of justice, it says any act that aims to obstruct, pervert the course of justice, preventing a fair trial or investigation, which Mchunu and Sibiya have done, actively trying to interfere with the proper functioning of the legal system, which Mchunu and Sibiya have done. The intent, there needs to be a deliberate intention to obstruct justice. Mchunu and Sibiya have done those. Legally pending proceedings, the act must relate to a specific legal matter that is underway, such as a trial or investigation. Investigation of those political killings, of which Mchunu and Sibiya have prevented their investigations. Example, interfering with the police investigations. They have done all of the above. So there's no need to wait. Today, they must go to prison. They must be arrested. And any judicial commission of inquiry must look at it. It must be a blanket approach to unearth the rot. But those two, today, They must wear orange overalls today, not tomorrow.
Okay, Mandla. Yeah, certainly after the suggestion, or not the suggestion, but what the National Commissioner has said, that he didn't sign off on that disbandment, effectively suggesting that the minister went over his head and went directly to General Sibiya. We'll take a quick break. We're back with more.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 1.5 litre Coca-Cola Original only. Buy 2 for 32 Rand, plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Or 145 gram Doritos corn chips. Buy any 2 for 36 Rand and save 12 Rand. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 21 July 2025. While stocks last, T's and C's apply.
Temba, how do I check if I've been auto-assessed by SARS?
No need to stress at all. Go to the SARS online query system dashboard, SOX. It only takes a few minutes.
Really? Where do I find it?
Go to the SARS website and then look for the SOX dashboard icon. Make tax matters your priority number one. Go to sars.gov.za and say goodbye to queues. SARS, at your service.
This Mandela Month, Nelson Mandela once said,
We have traveled a long journey. We have fought for peace and reconciliation, for social justice, for all men, women, and children.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Cathy and fellow SFM listeners, good morning. My name is Tulani Nzima in Croydon. Cathy, I totally disagree with you when you say the National Police Commissioner should have said he has nothing to say when we know factually that the press briefing had nothing to do with our expectations, but only what was happening from an execution point of view this morning, that operation that they were doing. Secondly, he was very generous because he cleared most of the things for us, in particular with regards to the briefing that Mkhwanazi had. He said he had all the legal rights to do just like any other commissioner. Secondly, he has all the right to investigate whoever that he wants to investigate, including Umkhunu. And thirdly, most importantly, there has not been a signed letter by him as a national commissioner who's the only person who has the right to disband the political task unit. Therefore, Mkhwanazi confirmed that he has the right to continue doing that particular work. And there's a lot of things that I picked up that he seems to be agreeing and equally aggrieved as Mkhwanazi is. Thank you.
This is what the National Police Commissioner is saying, that he is in full agreement with the actions, the utterances, and the allegations made by the Provincial Commissioner of KZN, General Mkhwanazi. And to decode further, the National Commissioner is saying it's good that Mkhwanazi did what he did so as he can call for the national investigations in all these criminal syndicates involving the high police and politicians. Ganjo.
Good morning, Cathy. You cannot even trust the president of this country, Cathy. As I said, This man is just going to cover up again because we can't trust him. Why does he refer to the president? I think because they're hiding behind the president. And of course, this president is not clean himself, Cathy. I think he's just going to cover up. That's it.
Good morning, Cathy and your team. From the start, I knew that Mkhwanazi, or I suspected that Mkhwanazi had a go-ahead from the commissioner. Commissioner is 100% behind Mkhwanazi. In fact, he might have been the one who approached Mkhwanazi to say, come and help here. I have a problem here in Gauteng. It's highly, highly, highly possible. So Mkhwanazi and the commissioner are working together. The commissioner is not going to say anything because Mkhono is his superior. They are playing their cards very well. Big up to Mkhwanazi and the police commissioner.
Yeah, thanks for those WhatsApp voice notes. Samuel, you're in Bloom, and by the way, I do take the criticism that that you feel that he did say enough. I just feel that there's so many unanswered questions, around this matter that I certainly would have wanted more from the National Commissioner. Mboneni, you're in Enedale. Good morning.
A very good morning, Cathy, and thank you for taking my call. And once again, good morning to SFM listeners. Okay, so I'm very disappointed this morning just to hear the spokesperson of the minister saying that the minister doesn't know Vusumuzi Cathy Mohlahlana, which is very amazing and very astonished. By the way, Mr. Mkunu, I was on the view that when I heard a statement, he will be saying that he's stepping down, as we have stepped aside in the ANC, that until they resolve this matter, to respect the Constitution of the Republic as it's holding a very serious office regarding crime and the lives of South Africans. So the issue of the commissioner now, I think what General Mkhwanazi said on Sunday, he was correctly so to say he reports to the National Commissioner. And I put my hand together for Commissioner Masimula based on the fact that he never wanted to scrutinize anything that has been said by the General Mkhwanazi on Sunday. And I think what he stated, if I've captured him correctly, is to say that you have got a prerogative to address issues of policing or issues of whatever from the task force. But Casey, I'm concerned with one of your people that you invite there, especially this guy who was one of the Bedford View gangsterism that were being killed way back by this Czech Republic fugitive. I forgot his name, but he's in jail now. He was also linked with Paul Sullivan. Paul Sullivan came on Sunday later to say that why Mkhwanazi went on air to address on the press conference wearing a combat uniform and all those kind of things. That man forever is very close to this minister, is very close to anyone in the government. So in other ways, on my side where I'm seated, he was just trying to defend the minister in all these wrongdoings. And also the one who came on Monday on Tula Caesar Similan, that woman, you should have to call her back. It's called Mary. He said Mkhwanazi, what he has said is a peg of lies. And I think Mkhwanazi is dedicated, determined, and a true citizen to the Republic.
Okay, Mboneni, we're going to have to leave it there. It's now time for the latest news update. What we will do is that we will reschedule the conversation that we were going to have for this hour to another day, and that hopefully will be later on this week. And I do apologize for that abrupt change. It's time for your latest news update.
Thank you, Cathy. On the top stories, Masamula ready to brief Ramaphosa on Mkhwanazi's allegations, and more than 100 injured as wildfire rages near Marseille. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good morning. National Police Commissioner Cathy Mohlahlana says they are ready to brief President Cyril Ramaphosa on KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's recent allegations. Mkhwanazi alleged during a media briefing on Sunday that senior police officials were working with syndicates to cover up high-profile crimes. Mkhwanazi also accused Police Minister Senzo Mchunu of receiving financial support from controversial businessman Vusumuzi Cathy Mohlahlana for his own political benefit. Masamula has conceded that Mkhwanazi's allegations are extremely worrying.
The current state of affairs is unprecedented and it is concerning, unfortunate, and requires uncompromised intervention to restore public trust, stability in the organization. We as SAPS, we acknowledge fully the commitment made by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa, who said he will attend to this matter as soon as he arrives into the country. Members of the media, we are ready to brief the President, and as such, the National Commissioner could not have done anything now.
Meanwhile, Mchunu has referred to Northwest-based businessman Brown Mokhotsi as a comrade, not an associate. This is contained in a statement that Mchunu's ministry has released. Mchunu has also denied ever meeting controversial another businessman, Vusumuzi Cathy Mohlahlana. The statement follows KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's allegation at the weekend that senior police officials were involved in corruption and interfered in crime-fighting operations. Mohlahlana is an alleged criminal mastermind and tender king, while Mokhotsi is alleged to be politically connected. Police Ministry spokesperson Kamohelo Mokhotsi.
The minister has never met Mr. Mohlahlana, has never spoken to him, nor has the minister ever requested or received anything from him. The minister did, however, initiate a review of the SAPS tender awarded to him when suspicions of possible wrongdoing surfaced. It was the same tender which has since been terminated. Furthermore, whilst the minister knows and has met Mr. Brown Mokhotsi, he is just a comrade and not an associate of the minister. The minister has never requested or received anything from him.
Meanwhile, the Correctional Services Department is expected to institute an investigation into an incident involving Mohlahlana. He was found in possession of a cell phone in his cell at the Hoshi-Mamburu Correctional Centre in Pretoria during a raid on Sunday. Mohlahlana has since been moved to the CMAX section of the centre. Mohlahlana is in prison facing attempted charges for allegedly attacking his former girlfriend, actress Tebogo Tobejane, in 2023. Mohlahlana, who has recently been linked to Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, was awarded a 360 million rand tender but later cancelled after suspicions of possible wrongdoing surfaced. Correctional Services spokesperson Singabakho Nxumalo.
Correctional Services can confirm that Vusumuzi Mohlahlana was transferred to CMAX at Hoshi-Mamburu Correctional Centre following the discovery of an illegal item, a mobile phone to be specific, which was in his possession during the raid that was conducted over the weekend.
A second initiate has died in Limpopo. The 12-year-old, who was a victim of a fire incident at an initiation school at Mage outside Tzaneen, has succumbed to burn wounds in a Gauteng hospital. The initiate had been transferred from a hospital in Limpopo to Gauteng. Earlier this week, another 19-year-old epileptic initiate died in the Philadelphia hospital in Dennilton. Premier Popi Ramatuba spokesperson Delibali Mwaba says that she has expressed sadness at the deaths of the initiates.
The Premier of Limpopo, Dr. Popi Ramatuba, has expressed a profound shock and deep sorrow at the tragic news that two initiates have lost their lives in separate incidents at the initiation schools in the province since the commencement of the 2025 initiation season. The first incident involves a 19-year-old initiate. The second tragedy occurred in the Mopane district, where a 12-year-old boy was a victim of an accidental fire that broke out in the camp last week. He succumbed to his injuries on Tuesday, the 9th of July, 2025.
More than 100 people have suffered minor injuries in a fast-moving wildfire that's reached the outskirts of Marseille, the second largest city in France. The Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau, who visited the area last night, says the fire hasn't been fully contained.
Aujourd'hui, au moment où je vous parle, le feu.
As I speak to you today, the fire is not yet under control.
We hope that weather conditions, particularly wind speed, will allow the fire to be contained in the coming hours. But we must obviously remain extremely cautious because a fire can reignite. There are still a number of hotspots. We have seen that this fire has jumped up to 300 metres, so we're dealing with phenomena that are very, very dangerous.
Recapping the top story, National Police Commissioner Cathy Mohlahlana says they are ready to brief President Cyril Ramaphosa on KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's recent allegations. I am Ondelambana for SAFM News Headlines at 11:30.
I'm Shakira O'Malley and I'm a centre back. What I like so much about living in South Africa is the beaches. So being able to go to the beach and just relax and just let go of literally everything. I had a good laugh this morning at breakfast. I think we were all just having a conversation. Everybody was interacting. If I won $1 million after a good game, I'd definitely not tell my teammates. Definitely not. I'm taking that $1 million and going home. Tune in to SABC Sport to watch Banyana compete at the AFCON and defend another title.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
James, congrats on the babies.
Yeah, thanks. It's a wild ride.
You're a new dad, 2 babies, 0 sleep, and 1 car that apparently couldn't cope.
Yeah, the hatchback was my baby, but it just didn't have enough space for my 2 new babies.
And are you happy with the price when you sold to WeBuy Cars?
Very. We've even got some extra cash to splurge on one of those fancy prams that you basically need a license for.
Good luck, James. WeBuy Cars. Geared for family, geared for you.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
When leaders need to account, we call on them. When society needs to debate, reflect, and advance, we're here to have the conversation. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12 midnight.
The Morning Brief.
Why does all of this matter now, now that we have this democratic South Africa underpinned by a lot of what the Freedom Charter entailed?
There are a lot of weaknesses in the Freedom Charter itself. I mean, there's nothing that's perfect and excellent, and with the exaggeration of praise that the Freedom Charter has been given, a blind eye has been turned on its fundamental weaknesses. First, the issue of land, and the other thing is that, as Sobuka said, the Freedom Charter seemed to increase the division of people on a permanent basis. And he said this was apartheid multiplied.
That's Jackie Siroke, who is a PAC National Executive Committee member.
Tulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Copper Queens are not willing to settle for anything less than a win. But the Teranga Lionesses believe they have everything under control to roar with victory to the referee's final whistle. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the thrilling action between the West and the South. Zambia versus Senegal this Wednesday, 9 July at 5:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
You are listening to SAFM Radio this Mandela Month.
It is in your hands now.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.1 FM in Johannesburg. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Good morning, Cathy. Stukstumza Manering here in Moods, outside Grobolasdal. Look, I want to touch this issue about Mkhwana's. The president has arrived. When is the family meeting to announce an independent investigation? South Africa will not accept the suspension of a General Mkhwana's over internal procedures or inappropriate attire. Such action would lead us to urge the public to occupy the union buildings. People want the truth, not debate about protocols. We are tired. Please, goodbye, Cathy.
This is Keith. Me, I'm thinking it's better to allow South African Defence Force to take over here as protection, because those people are inside government. And then as Mkhwana said it, the, what you calling it, justice also is involved. Correctional service is involved. Police are involved. So who really is going to do good investigation? I think South African Defence Force must take over and then investigate, while other people that are in power now being suspended, put it aside while they investigate. I think that will be a fair investigation.
Good morning, SAFM. We are speaking to Nkululeko from Jozini in KZN. Yeah, we've got over 240 correctional facilities in South Africa. And out of that, we only have 26 universities. Now, I'm just wondering myself, why the ratio of universities to correctional facilities? And then there's a minister called Kubai who was talking to us now in the morning, saying the cost of maintaining one prisoner in South Africa is way too much. I think they spend about 14,000 a month on one prisoner. And then for a child that is going to school, they get a meal that is 14 rand per day, and the prisoner gets something around 150 per day. And then you ask yourself, where are we in South Africa? But anyway, thank you.
Cathy, getting their grants until they can prove that they don't have a solid extra income. But yet with these serious allegations, they are taking their time. This is just so South African politics. Have a good show. Bye-bye.
All right, those were just some of your WhatsApp voice notes coming into the final hour of the show. Our conversation this hour is going to be looking at improving mental health integration, particularly in primary healthcare. And it's in relation to a new study from Wits University, which has highlighted a need to integrate mental health within our healthcare system. It also gives solutions looking at how different integrated care models can make a difference, particularly for patients who need it. Sarah Abdullah is a PhD fellow at the Center for Health Policy, School of Public Health in the Faculty of Health Sciences at Wits. She joins us on the line. Sarah, good morning to you. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Cathy, and to all your audiences. Thank you so much for having me.
The work that you have done is, of course, such important work, and in many ways, at least for me, speaks to the levels of which there is progress in society in as far as looking at mental health and seeing it as a pivotal part of one's overall well-being. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you said, you hit the nail on the wall. It is really important, to look at. We know that people with mental disorders have a reduced life expectancy, like their lifespan reduces by 25 years, which really highlights the need for community psychiatry services.
When we talk about mental health, Sarah, in the context of within which the study was done, what are we referring to?
Sorry, the line is breaking up. Could you please repeat that?
So I asked that in reference to the study that you have done, when we speak about mental health, what is it in particular that you were using as a description for mental health?
Absolutely. So for mental health, in this particular case, we're looking at serious mental disorders, which are much more debilitating than common mental disorders because of its functional impairment, and also because it's really costly to the health system, where we find that people who have serious mental illnesses are frequently readmitted to hospitals. And so we also know from the Life as a Demani tragedy what happens when systems fail for vulnerable people with serious mental illness. And so what the study really aimed to look at was community psychiatry services, which are specialist mental health services specifically for people with serious mental illness, integrated in primary healthcare facilities. And now this is done in many different ways. Sometimes they are, integrated in the same facility. Other times they are co-located next to the facility. But in essence, what it is meant to do is to improve access to quality services closer to people's homes and in their communities.
When we look at least the range of mental health that you are looking at, this often would include illnesses that would need to be diagnosed by professionals, I'm assuming, where patients would also have to be on some level of treatment, if not chronic treatment?
Yes, absolutely. And so what the community psychiatry service does have is it has a team of specialist mental health professionals. So you have psychologists, social workers, occupational therapists, and psychiatrists who are there specifically to provide care for people with serious mental illnesses. And so what the service does do is ensure that that patients are able to receive long-term chronic mental health services in primary healthcare facilities.
What are you seeing as the state of provision in as far as these illnesses are concerned, especially at a primary level? And just confirm for me if when we talk about primary healthcare here, we're looking at services that are offered most likely by your clinics and centers health centers within communities.
Absolutely. So what does happen is that, we have primary healthcare doctors who are technically meant to be providing services for patients who have mild to moderate mental disorders, and also at the same time provide treatment and care for their medical comorbidities, whether it's HIV, TB, hypertension, which we do know that people with mental disorders often do have these comorbidities. The community psychiatry service, at the same time, what it does is the providers there offer services specifically for serious mental disorders. What is actually meant to happen is that stable healthcare users who have serious mental disorders are actually supposed to be seen by primary healthcare doctors. But this is not happening, and this is primarily because, firstly, primary healthcare doctors feel that, well, if there is a community psychiatry service that is available, then why should we provide mental health services, whether it's from mild to severe? So regardless of the severity of the condition, they don't feel that they should be providing those services. Secondly, they don't actually have the time to be able to do this. The caseloads are really huge. They don't have time. They are overburdened. And this is on both sides, both community psychiatry and primary health care. So, the situation is a bit dire in the sense that there isn't an exact, understanding between the providers as to who should be providing these services and to what extent these services should be provided in the community.
It sounds to me then, Sarah, that this would lead to instances where there's a gap in the delivery of these services.
Absolutely. There's an absolutely huge gap. We do have a team of, there's a team of psychiatrists who have been trying really hard to train primary healthcare providers and to explain why these services are really, important and why they should be providing these services. But unfortunately, the situation with health systems in South Africa in general is quite dire. There is limited resources, there is limited funding, there is limited staff, which makes it really difficult to provide services in such conditions, and then to ask primary healthcare providers to now provide mental health services in addition to everything else that they are providing. And so buy-in is a really big issue at this point in time.
When you look at the caseloads that these officials are sitting with, does it sound like we are having an increase in the number of people that are dealing with mental disorders?
Yes, definitely. So at the time when we were doing field work, I believe now, the amount might have doubled from what we were looking at before when we did start the study. And so, the amounts are increasing, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. There was an increase in serious mental illness, and not necessarily because it could be that more people are being diagnosed with it. It might just be that, there might have been much more awareness during the COVID-19 pandemic, which could have led to an increase in the number of people accessing services.
Sure, that is quite concerning. And I guess my next question would be, to what extent would you be able to speak to some of the causal factors for why you believe that there is this increase?
Yeah, I mean, besides the COVID-19 pandemic and awareness of what's happening, what also happens is that a lot of people with serious mental disorders do frequently, are admitted in hospitals. And so by default, they would then be referred to primary healthcare facilities. So that could be one of the reasons why we do see an increase in, caseloads in, primary healthcare facilities. I think what was also interesting was a nurse had told me that, during the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of people had come out using substances. And so there is substance-induced psychosis that also seems to be increasing mental disorders and so increasing the caseloads.
Sarah, I mean, part of what you're sharing in many ways gives us insight not only into what is happening in our country, but what is happening at a community and even at a family level, right? That just what you said there, that last sentence about people who may also be using substances that induce some of these illnesses. Are you able to share what kind of substances those might be?
Yes, so it could be anything from, meth, cocaine, weed. A lot of the weed is mixed with other, other substances as well. So it is a wide variety of substances that are being used. Unfortunately, there is this perception that if you are using weed, you will be fine, and it can help with anxiety and depression. But what we do know is that, especially in communities, a lot of these substances are mixed with other, substances. And so it's not exactly something that, we would say that, it's acceptable and it's okay. So, for the listeners who are listening as well, to be mindful when thinking that certain substances might be okay, they actually are not okay.
Do we have a breakdown of the age demographic and what those numbers look like when we're looking at the age marker?
So a lot of the people who are accessing community psychiatry services are mostly female, and I believe that is especially, with regards to stigma attached to, men accessing mental health services, which we know is a big issue in the community. But also what we are seeing is a lot of people, so for substances, it's much more a younger demographic. So we're looking at youth between the ages of 15 or 18 up until 25, but a larger amount of people accessing services are middle-aged, which I did find quite interesting, who do seem to not only just access care, but also remain in care.
Sure, this is really such important work that you have done. So let's then come down to the impact that you believe bringing these services down to a primary healthcare level, the impact that would have?
Sure. So, integrated care is especially important because, we're moving away from institutionalized care. We're moving away from delivering services, at hospital level, especially because we know of the gross human rights abuses that have taken place in, institutionalized care. And so community-based care is really important in the sense that it provides services closer to people's homes, and it ensures that you can get holistic care. So not just for your diabetes or thyroid or cholesterol, but you can also get care for your mental health conditions at the same time. And that improves access, and it improves the chances of people remaining in care. And studies have shown us that it is really a much more cost-effective method to delivering services. But the issue is, just because we do have good integrated care doesn't mean that it is working very well. And so we do have many challenges that need to be addressed. I mean, one example that I can really think of is the lack of privacy and confidentiality. Something as simple as not having enough space for mental health services in the clinics is a big issue. And, I'll give you an observation. In the middle of a corridor, there's a large table in one of the clinics where you see patient files and you see a psychiatric nurse talking to a new patient about her personal history, about her psychiatric history, about things like sexual assault and abuse and gender-based violence. And this is happening while there are patients seated on either side of the corridor. And that's because there's absolutely no space. So I'm sure you and, the audience can really understand the dire situation of providing such personal information in such an environment. Another issue is that because there's no space, you have psychiatric doctors, two psychiatric doctors in one consultation room talking to patients at the same time. So obviously, as a patient, if you can hear somebody else's consultation, you won't feel comfortable talking about your own. So there is that issue.
As you're speaking, it also is highlighting one of the issues that I think many have raised where primary health care is concerned in this country, especially privacy, because if you go to a clinic and you're there to pick up HIV/AIDS medication, TB medication, there's also no privacy around that. So because sometimes the experiences that people have shared is that, well, the nurses will say, everybody who's here for HIV left, everybody who's here for TB right. Now, there's absolutely no privacy in that, and what would perhaps even go as far as saying that it could to some level also impede on the dignity of some of these patients, because by the time that you're done, you get a sense that everybody knows your business, for lack of a better phrase. But Saira, I'm going to continue with you shortly. We're edging towards the latest 11:30 news headlines, and then we'll continue the conversation with Saira Abdullah on the integration of mental health, especially in primary health care.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines, National Police Commissioner Cathy Mohlahlana says KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi was within his right when he called a media briefing in Durban on Sunday. Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge says that when he communicated with Judge's Secretary Andy Swamengo, he did so as a social being, not a senior court official. And a second initiate has died in Limpopo. 12-year-old who was a victim of a fire incident at an initiation school at Mage outside Tzaneen has succumbed to burn wounds in a Gauteng hospital. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
All right, we continue the conversation with Saira Abdullah. We're talking about integrating mental health into the primary healthcare infrastructure. So, Saira, just on that point around the issue with privacy that we've been experiencing in the system for quite some time. And I wonder then if it at this point would be possible to secure a level of privacy for mental health patients when we don't see it with other patients either.
Yeah, look, I mean, it is quite a complex situation, and also when we do have separate spaces, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are reducing the stigma. So I'll give you one example. Like in one of the clinics, the mental health services are offered at the back in an outbuilding. So while some patients feel that this is fantastic, I can go to the back, I don't have to interact with anybody else, and everyone at the back has a mental health disorder, for others, it becomes problematic because it's like everyone knows that mental health services are offered right there at the back. So they would rather drive further and go somewhere else just so that they are not seen at this outbuilding. So that is an issue. I think it's quite difficult in that we don't have a particular way of dealing with this, but there's definitely got to be some innovative solutions that we can come up with. It requires out-of-the-box thinking about what we can do with the resources that we have, with the infrastructure that we have, and the funding availability that we have. Just thinking about the one where the consultations are happening, in the corridors, what would actually really benefit is having those medical containers, to have some of, just to rearrange the way the services are offered if there isn't any space within the actual clinic. So it's definitely a conversation to be had. And what it really does require is for everyone to come to the table. We need service users to be able to tell us how should these services be integrated? Where do they want to be seen? How do we ensure confidentiality and privacy? We need providers to be able to be involved in decision-making processes as well, because they are the ones providing these services. They know the challenges better than anybody else. And then we need district, provincial, and national representatives to be involved in developing these approaches, because what happens is that we go about, implementing programs, but there isn't any clear strategy behind how we are going about doing this.
Do you think that this will assist in ensuring that patients also stick to their treatment programs? Because, again, it's one of the issues that will be raised by families. And I know that we've had similar experiences with TB and HIV, but because we've been on a much longer journey with those particular diseases, over time, the education, people watching others being able to live life has helped in changing the perception around treatment and actually bringing more people onto treatment.
Yes, definitely. I know that, mental health now has a much more wider presence than it did even a few years ago, but it's still not enough. We still need to do a lot more in terms of awareness, in terms of outreach, in terms of reducing the stigma of people, with mental health disorders accessing care. And, we need to look at health as a continuum. It's not that either I have a mental health disorder or I don't have a mental health disorder. It's a continuum of health and well-being. And so we really need to center on that. And I do feel that if we do go towards that approach and we do learn from other programs, especially HIV, where this has happened, where they've had to deal with, issues related to stigma, that we can get to a point where we can destigmatize accessing mental health services and even talking about it, whether it's in the clinics or in the communities.
Sarah Abdullah, let me thank you for your time this morning. She's a PhD fellow at the Center for Health Policy School of Public Health in the Faculty of Health Sciences at Wits University. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, it's the G20 series with Lerato Tsebe.
We love rating things, our phones, our cars, but our health? Your health lets you do what you love with the people you love. So who are you staying healthy for, and how can you improve your health? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that helps you live a healthier, more rewarding, longer life with regular health checks. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guardrisk Life, a licensed life insurer, FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
30 years ago, a moment united a nation. From Ellis Park to every township and village, we stood together. One people, one dream, one victory. Now, the vibration rises again. From the heart of Mzansi to every corner of the country. The 4-time world champions, the mighty Springboks, take on the Azuri in a clash where history meets destiny. This is more than a match, it's a country moment, only on SABC. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of our 1995 Rugby World Cup victory. Watch South Africa versus Italy, Saturday 12 July at 4 p.m. Live on SABC2 and streaming on SABC+. Also available on SABC radio stations at 5 p.m. Download the SABC Plus app now. Switch, stream, no subscription. SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Temba, how do I check if I've been auto-assessed by SARS?
No need to stress at all. Go to the SARS online query system dashboard, SOX. It only takes a few minutes.
Really? Where do I find it?
Go to the SARS website and then look for the SOX dashboard icon. Make tax matters your priority number one. Go to sars.gov.za and say goodbye to queues. SARS, at your service.
Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
All right, let's get into our G20 series with Lerato Tsebe and looking at South Africa's role at the presidency of the G20 and some of the week-to-week events that are happening. Lerato, good morning again. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to your listeners.
So the president just returned from the BRICS Leadership Summit. We did touch a bit on it last week. There was a full agenda. He also closed off that particular meeting by the BRICS countries. But anything significant that came out of this session in Brazil?
Yeah. Cathy, there really was, I think. There was, summits are always really wonderful for heads of state to convene and ensure that they're all on the same page and all following the same agenda points. But I thought this was a very interesting declaration that they released at the end of the summit. And all the BRICS leaders are essentially, and this was at the initiation of Brazil, which was the host of this meeting, they are calling, or they want a $1.3 trillion financing fund, essentially, and it's called the Tropical Forest Forever Facility. And it's a way for developing countries to find climate change mitigation way beyond the mandatory requirements that are being imposed by wealthier nations through the Paris Agreement. Now, for those people who don't know, climate change is a very big issue, specifically for the Brazilian government and for the Brazilian President Lula da Silva himself. They are hosting COP30 this year, further towards the end of the year. And they've been very consistent in wanting to realize better climate financing, better inclusion of developing countries, more consideration coming from the globalized and more industrialized economies in terms of them broadening how much financing they're going to give to the global south. Brazil also obviously has a ministry, I believe, a minister rather, that does deal specifically with climate change only. The declaration, Cathy, that the heads of state released was very interesting, as was our own president's statement. President Ramaphosa essentially was in tandem with the broader statement that was released by the heads of state, with the president also calling for BRICS to be at the forefront of a new inclusive multilateralism. Now, this particular statement that they released, Cathy, very interestingly, I did read it yesterday and today. Multilateralism was at the forefront of the BRICS declaration on behalf of the heads of state. Obviously, there's a plethora of things that are going on globally, but the one thing that they are firmly recommitting themselves to is multilateralism, and more importantly, upholding the rule of international law and the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter. There's a lot of points that they make, Cathy, in the summit that the summary that they released. But one point that they did make on their declaration, which is point 7, is that they state, we emphasize the strong call for reforms of the principal organs of the United Nations with a view to achieving concrete progress. We recommit to instill new life in the discussions on reform of the UN Security Council and continue to work to revitalize the General Assembly. Now, I thought that was very strong language coming in from a grouping that's essentially sitting parallel to the United Nations and sitting sort of further away from their Western counterparts, with them reaffirming this institution that I think is really holding both North and South together. Our own President, Cathy, did go on to say that he felt that the BRICS Summit was a success, and he is calling for more BRICS and G20 synergy, though the President didn't really elaborate, in my opinion, on what he meant by that.
Lerato, I don't know about you, but of course, while that summit was underway, then we had the U.S. president making announcements around tariffs. Letters were being issued. But significant to BRICS is that, all members associated, all countries associated with BRICS will now also face, a 10% tariff. When it comes to the issue of trade, given that this conversation has been taking place since at least last year, when Donald Trump made it very clear that there would be consequences for those countries who are pushing for an alternative currency, who are pushing back against what is effectively the status quo. My expectation was that there could well have been a lot more decisive commitments made on issues of trade, given how the BRICS countries collectively will be affected. But even just looking at a country like South Africa, how we are going to be affected.
Well, apparently we are going to have 30% tariffs imposed upon us as of, I believe it's August, or perhaps even today was the big day for our trade agreement with the United States to be sanctioned. Yes, Cathy, it was actually, funny enough, the announcement on behalf of President Trump, it took place actually on the last day of the BRICS Head of State Summit, which was Monday, and it was President Lula da Silva, who was the host of the summit, coming out first to really condemn outrightly what the president was insinuating, pretty much saying to him, look, we are not children and we have a right to exercise our own agency and to do as we will. And President Lula da Silva actually saying that they too can and will impose retaliatory tariffs. We are not the only emerging market economy or really major middle income or middle power country essentially that's going to be targeted by these tariffs. How we are going to work our way around them, I think that remains a different issue at hand. But I'm almost certain, Cathy, that this is the quality of conversation that probably does take place at the BRICS Summit, with South Africa obviously knowing, and all our other Global South counterparts knowing, that we are well within the ear of the United States government in imposing tariffs. I think President Trump and his administration can be angry or a bit agitated or a bit, it's sort of a threat, I suppose, Cathy, that they're imposing upon the Global South. It's really neither here nor there, because they're not essentially going to stop the process of BRICS developing, of more countries wanting to become members of the BRICS Plus grouping, of developing nations wanting to continue to pursue more renewable climate financing. So I'm not really sure what they want to do with these kinds of idle threats that the United States president is issuing towards them. But for me, I think it's more of a keep calm, carry on.
All right. Lerato, just before we go, let's look at the latest also coming out of the U.S. in relation to G20. The U.S. Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, announcing that he's going to be skipping the G20 finance meeting. Still waiting for that signal from the U.S. To back up the commitment that it's not only supporting, but will be here in November.
Yes, indeed. Well, Cathy, yes, U.S. Secretary Scott Bessent says he will not be here for the Group of 20 finance minister and treasury meeting next week in Durban. He is, however, and this is, I believe, the first most senior political official from the United States, he is deploying Undersecretary of the Treasury for International Affairs, Mr. Mike Kaplan, whom will be here to represent the department from next week onwards. Mr. Bessent says that he will be skipping the finance minister's meeting to be attending the World Expo in Osaka, Japan next week. Japan, as of yesterday as well, has been hit with a 25% tariff on all incoming Japanese goods to the United States. This will be the second meeting that the United States misses. Earlier in the year, in February, the finance ministers and the heads of reserve banks, they weren't able to find one another and did not release a joint communique, but they will hopefully, I think the circumstances have changed drastically in terms of the geopolitical climate, so they may be forced to have one now.
Lerato, we're going to have to leave it there for this morning. Thank you again for these updates. It's the G20 series with Lerato Tsebe. That's where we wrap it up on the Talking Point. The show back with you again tomorrow between 9 and midday. Have yourselves a lovely afternoon and stay tuned to SAFM.
Botswana is in high spirits to stop the West Africans. However, the Super Falcons want to illustrate why they are 9-time African champions. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the superb clash between Botswana and Nigeria this Thursday, 10 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3, where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
30 years ago, a moment united a nation. From Ellis Park to every township and village, we stood together. One people, one dream, one victory. Now, the vibration rises again. From the heart of Mzansi to every corner of the country. The 4-time world champions, the mighty Springboks, take on the Azuri in a clash where history meets destiny. This is more than a match, it's a country moment, only on SABC. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of our 1995 Rugby World Cup victory. Watch South Africa versus Italy, Saturday 12 July at 4 p.m. Live on SABC2 and streaming on SABC Plus. Also available on SABC radio stations at 5 p.m. Download the SABC Plus app now. Switch, stream, no subscription. SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SFM's award-winning drama department presents another episode of the book, A Testament of Hope, the autobiography of Dr. Sam Motswenyane. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised.
In January 1960, our passports were eventually issued and we had to travel to Stellenbosch to meet with a professor who was personally involved in the negotiations with the relevant government office to secure our passports. We finally left Cape Town on the Cape Town Castle, a ship destined for England and which also carried Sir Harold Macmillan, the British Prime Minister who was returning home after delivering his famous Winds of Change speech to the South African Parliament on the 12th of January 1960. This was our very first voyage by ship. It took us 2 weeks to travel from Cape Town to Southampton, England. There was ample recreation on board and enough excitement to make you forget that you were floating over a very deep sea which could at any time swallow you. We traveled quite comfortably until we reached the Bay of Biscay around Spain, when the sea became extremely rough and I got seasick. I had to be taken below deck for special care, whilst my wife remained quite strong and did not yield to the unsettling turbulence of the tempestuous sea. As it was midwinter in the northern hemisphere, we were not quite comfortable with the severity of the winds. After we arrived at Southampton, we took a train to London to board another ship, the Ivania. The Ivania took us down the River Thames into the Atlantic Ocean and for the next 7 days on to New York. Thus, the whole trip from Cape Town to New York took 3 weeks. When we arrived in New York, the USALEP secretary, Dr. Frank Lucia, was there to meet us at the harbor. Unfortunately for me, when the immigration officer carried out a health inspection, my x-rays showed what appeared to be a spot on my right lung. I was immediately taken to Staten Island Hospital to be quarantined as they needed to satisfy themselves that I was not entering their country with a TB infection. Dr. Lucia took my wife to his home in Philadelphia while I remained behind in hospital. I was quite anxious as I did not know what the outcome of the tests would be and whether I would be returned home before I actually fulfilled the purpose of my visit to the United States. I was grateful when, after undergoing various tests, the results came back negative. It was assumed that the mark on my lung was a congenital spot that must have formed during my childhood and was not an infection. After 3 days, the hospital cleared me and I immediately joined my wife in a hotel in New York where we were to live for a little while. We spent a lovely time in New York City, witnessing snowfalls like we had never seen before. I remember that during the first few days in New York, we were invited to attend a meeting at the Afro-American Institute. The snow was so heavy on the journey from the hotel to the venue that my wife asked to be taken back to the hotel, and I made the journey to that meeting on my own. This was one incident that showed us how different that country was to our own. My original plan was to stay in America for 6 months, traveling and inspecting the soil conservation programs of the United States Department of Agriculture. However, when I got to the Afro-American Institute, I decided that I needed to stay longer. I wanted to ask the Institute to consider granting me a scholarship to enable me to go into a training program at one of the local universities and register for some courses in agriculture. At the beginning of our official USALEP program, we were scheduled by Dr. Lucia to travel down to North Carolina by train. My wife and I started our journey from New York City to Philadelphia, and from there we traveled to Raleigh, the capital city of North Carolina. We arrived in Raleigh after sunset, and we were met by Dr. Larkin, a member of the committee of USALEP, who took us to Shaw University, a black university where we stayed while visiting various projects in the state of North Carolina. Our itinerary in North Carolina included meeting with the then rector of Shaw University, Dr. Strassner, other important personalities, and visits to a number of very interesting places. We visited the predominantly black agricultural and technical university in Greensboro. At the A&T College, I met with the deans and professors of agriculture and discussed soil conservation. Greensboro was in a state of turmoil. Black students were protesting against not being allowed equal service in certain public places in the United States. Segregation was still being practiced, especially in the south of the country where we traveled. The black people in Greensboro initiated a sit-in movement where they would go and sit in a restaurant and demand service where they were normally not served. This anti-segregation campaign had, at the time of our arrival in America, only started in Greensboro, and it later spread to most of the southern states. We also visited Asheville in the western part of North Carolina state, and for a special treat, we went to Cherokee, an Indian reservation up in the Smoky Mountains. We spent a few days there with the Cherokee Indians and saw how they lived. What struck us instantly was that most of the people there who were regarded as Indians looked more white than Cherokee Indian. The people would tell you that they were 30% or 40% Indian, 60% white, and so forth. They all knew their racial percentages, but how they determined that, I do not know. They also identified very strongly with the Cherokee Indian culture. The Cherokee Indian reservations had their own form of governments based on their own culture. One of the events which we thoroughly enjoyed was the inspirational show that we attended at Cherokee titled Unto These Hills, a story of courage and fortitude on the part of the American Indians. The show described the way Cherokee Indians were forcefully removed from the area by the colonialists more than 200 years ago, and then driven more than 1,000 miles on foot to Oklahoma, which became known as the Indian State. Many of them lost their lives along the way. The intention of the early white settlers was either to exterminate the Indians or to move them all into one place. The Indians were brought in from all over the United States and settled there in an effort to set up a sort of apartheid state. The story further told of how the Indians carried a flame which they took from the mountains to Oklahoma and then later brought it back when they returned to the Cherokee area. That flame still burns at Cherokee. During our short stay in Raleigh, we visited the North Carolina State College and also met the governor of the state, Mr. R. Hodges. The next state we went to was Georgia, where we visited all the Negro colleges in Atlanta. At the Morris Brown College, we met one of my old teachers at Wilberforce, Dr. J.R. Cohn, who was then head of the theology school at the college, and he was delighted to see us. We had known that he was somewhere in Georgia, but did not know that he was at that particular college. We also visited the University of Atlanta and held meetings with the community leaders in the city, as well as with South Africans who were residing in Atlanta, like Thulani Qabashe. After spending a few days in Georgia, our itinerary took us to Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. I learned something about the experience of Black Americans on the long journey from Atlanta to Nashville. What we saw in many places in the South, where we had to sit at a bus station waiting for our transport, made us to realize that there was very little difference between segregation as practiced in South Africa and segregation as found in the South of the United States of America.
That was another episode of the book, A Testament of Hope, the autobiography of Dr. Sam Mohlahlana. The book is available online on www.kmmr.co.za, KMMR Publishers, and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursday on The Talking Point. It is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Samson Kumalo. Technical production, Wiseman Manele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapuruma.
12 o'clock on Wednesday, the 9th of July, 2025. A very warm welcome to Update at Noon here on SAFM. Leading the conversation, I'm Sakina Kamwendo. Coming up in the next hour.
He's been getting threats to his life in that province. We have beefed up his security, but he won't be persecuted from my side.
Security has been beefed up around the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi following threats and...
Whether these chats were welcome or unwelcome, I have not come across anything conveyed to me that should make me believe that it is unwelcome.
The Judicial Conduct Tribunal probing sexual harassment allegations against the Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge continues. Coming up in sport.
Women's AFCON on the go. Plenty action in Wimbledon today. Top seed in action. And Christian Horner leaves Red Bull.
Oh, and of course, John Jericho with those details later in the show. And let us know what's on your mind as well. You can write to us. 41391 is the SMS line number. You can write to us via X at SABC News_radio, or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 082-692-3909. Well, these and more stories coming up on this Wednesday edition of Update at Noon. First, though, is Ondela Mbana with your latest news.
Thank you, Sakina. On the top stories, Masamula briefs media on latest developments in the SAPS, and a second initiate has died in Limpopo. For SAFM News, I am Ondela Mbana, and a very good day. National Police Commissioner Fani Masamula says KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi was within his right when he called a media briefing in Durban on Sunday. Mkhwanazi has been accused of breaching police protocol for publicly making allegations against senior police officials, including Minister Senzo Mchunu. He accused them of meddling in police operations and having links to criminal syndicates. Masamula briefed the media on a virtual platform.
Provincial commissioners have got the prerogative to brief media. Yes, he did indicate that he's going to brief media on the work of political task team, which for quite a long time we haven't done a briefing. So one does not really have a problem in him briefing the media on the work of the team. It is not a problem if he talk about it, because it is operating within the province of KwaZulu-Natal, which is his terrain.
Masamula has also announced the Western Cape Hawks head Solomon Makgato as the new Acting Crime Intelligence Commissioner.
Acting Divisional Commissioner for Crime Intelligence for now will be Major General Solomon Makgato. He brings to this position a wealth of experience and knowledge in the intelligence and detective space, with 36 years service in both environments in SAPS. He holds a BTech degree in policing as well as National Diploma in Police Administration. We have full confidence in Major General Makgato.
Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge says that when he communicated with Judge's Secretary Andy Swamengo, he did so as a social being, not a senior court official. Evidence leader advocate Salom Skippers is cross-examining the top judge on his questions to Mengo, saying he sought to cross a personal boundary. Mbenenge, who is facing allegations of sexual harassment in the workplace in the form of interactions and electronic communications, insists that when he communicated with Mengo, he never imposed his title as a judge president on her. This is despite Mengo's testimony that she viewed him as a judge president and did not know how to respond to his alleged advances.
The direct answer to your question is I never imposed myself as a judge president. The conversation was not between a judge president and a secretary or a junior staff. It was a conversation between two adults. I was simply a social being when I was talking to her in this instance. I don't remove my JP-ship.
A second initiate has died in Limpopo. The 12-year-old who was a victim of a fire incident at an initiation school at Mage outside Tzaneen has succumbed to burn wounds in a Gauteng hospital. The initiate had been transferred from a hospital in Limpopo to Gauteng. Earlier this week, another 19-year-old epileptic initiate died in the Philadelphia hospital in Dennilton. Premier Poppy Ramatuba spokesperson Tilibali Mwaba says that she has expressed sadness at the deaths of the initiate. updates.
The Premier of Limpopo, Dr. Popi Ramatuba, has expressed a profound shock and deep sorrow at the tragic news that 2 initiates have lost their lives in separate incidents at the initiation schools in the province since the commencement of the 2025 initiation season. The first incident involves a 19-year-old initiate. The second tragedy occurred in the Mopane district, where a 12-year-old boy was a victim of an accidental fire that broke out in the camp last week. He succumbed to his injuries on Tuesday, the 9th of July, 2025.
2 people have died and dozens others injured in a series of earthquakes in Guatemala in Central America. The swarm of tremors up to 5.6 magnitude rattled the country yesterday. These people are from the town outside the capital, Guatemala City.
Everything got destroyed inside due to the force. The walls cracked, the floor cracked. All our belongings were destroyed. By the grace and mercy of God, the houses didn't collapse, but everything inside got destroyed.
There are a lot of houses destroyed and monuments. Practically 600 houses destroyed. The road that leads to Guatemala City is totally impassable. Over in Arena Blanca, everything collapsed.
Recapping the top story, National Police Commissioner Cathy Mohlahlana says KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi was within his right when he called a media briefing in Durban on Sunday. I am on Delambana for SFM News Headlines at 12:30.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo.
Well, thanks, Ondela. Good afternoon, everybody. It's 8 minutes after 12. Appreciate you tuning in to Update at Noon. A quick look at our diary this afternoon. Some of the stories will, of course, play for you what was said by the Police Minister, Senzo Mchunu, who has come out denying ever meeting controversial businessman Vusmuzi Cathy Mohlahlana. However, he does confirm that he knows Brown Mokhotsi, and people talking about how this was perhaps denied at first. And we'll try and speak to the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police regarding this matter. And staying with police matters, police management are to meet with a host of community policing forums, this from across the Western Cape, following a string of mass murders. The police are investigating a number of those murder cases following various shooting incidents in the Cape Metro. And some of the affected areas, as we have covered, are Mitchell's Plain, Guguletu, Khayelitsha, among others. And we'll also try and put those questions to the Portfolio Committee. And then the Eastern Cape Judge President, Selbin Benenge, the third day on the stand in that landmark sexual harassment probe against him. Kenny Mapanga, as always, on that beat for us. And then we also looking at what's happening with the people. And this was a story in one of the papers, carried this quite prominently over the weekend. And it is about people who are charged with crimes and trying to deal with the backlog in our courts. So they are now paying their way out of these criminal records, so to speak, in deals that are brokered by prosecutors in court hallways. And out-of-court settlements in criminal cases have now become commonplace, as I said, in an attempt to clear some of these court backlogs and also save the states the cost of trials in many of these instances.